What's up, guys? Today I am doing a review of Final Fantasy VII Remake. Is this game, which came out originally sometime around, I don't know, June, July of 2020, worth playing now in 2023? Let us talk about it. So first off, this, of course, if you had no idea what is going on in the world, is a remake of a classic, I don't know, late 90s game, which looks horrible in comparison. This is one of the truest remakes, or reason for a remake ever made. It truly is an upgrade to a game which was very popular back when it originally came out. So if you are a fan of Final Fantasy and had no idea, the original game was very popular, and this is definitely the way to play it compared to going back to the original version. Now, with that being said, I will say there's positives and negatives that could possibly sway people. I've never played any Final Fantasy except for Final Fantasy, 15, that came out back in like 2016 or 2017, I can't recall, which I actually really enjoyed, and honestly I thought this would be kind of a remake of that game. Not a remake, but the mechanics I thought would be pretty similar, and they are not, which is probably the biggest letdown out of it. Final Fantasy 15 was a pretty straightforward, I'd say kind of like a Devil May Cry, Bayonetta type of action fighting game, hack and slash. I would say it's very similar to Kingdom Hearts. I'd say Kingdom Hearts is probably one of my favorite fighting mechanical type of things. I think the fighting style and the way you fight is, simple, but, they put a lot of particle effects and blast, and it's very over the top and bombastic, which is pretty cool to see. And then you can summon things and these crazy summon effects and whatnot. So seeing that, but in a more gritty sense, is kind of like what happened in Final Fantasy 15, and that's kind of how I thought they would relay that over into Final Fantasy VII Remake. But unfortunately, it is not fully like that. It is a typical fighting game in a sense, but you also have a lot of command prompts that you can kind of pick and choose, which kind of makes the fighting slower, and I don't know, gives you, I guess, kind of time to think about it, but it's just not the same, which is a big negative in my eyes. And just the game in general has a lot of very slow, dull areas. Like almost the whole game is pretty slow and dull in a sense. You can easily get bored playing this game. The open world is pretty much non-existent. You're essentially kind of in very linear paths that kind of allow you to kind of break away a little bit to kind of explore, but it is in no way I would ever consider really an open world game. And essentially, you go to just different areas that you can slightly break off of to look for things and do straightforward, get from point A to point B. So that also is a big negative. I feel like overall, this game is very easily to get boring, and kind of it's really hard to feel really excited while playing it. Now, that does not make the game bad in any sense. I just feel like it could be misleading, especially, for example, if you did play Final Fantasy 15 and expected to have that type of style game, but with, the story that is famed for Final Fantasy 7 that everyone liked, and, even with possibly maybe better graphics because this came out after. So if you're expecting that, be prepared. That's not exactly what you're going to get. The fighting style still is pretty similar. But again, like I said, it's not the same, and it is slower, and there are prop menus and things like that. You can't switch between party members, which is kind of nice. It gives a little bit more diversity, and you can, of course, advance and power up your weapons and change what your abilities and like kind of like your specials, which can play a big part in if you win in a battle or not. But overall, if you were expecting what you saw in Final Fantasy 15, be aware that that is not the case. And I find that very strange that Final Fantasy is one of these games that so often their way that they set their fighting style up is different in so many different games. When you look at Final Fantasy 15 to 13 to this one, it changes very often, which is strange. But with that being said, like I said, this game still is good. You get plenty of playtime in it. I think it's possibly like a 30-hour campaign mode game, with instead of little side missions that they have and whatnot. So you definitely get a good amount of playtime with it. So I can't complain there. They definitely give you enough variety and looking for side things and doing side missions to get a good amount of different weapons and ways to kind of make yourself stronger or weaker if you don't spend the time exploring. They also allow you, they do have pretty good graphics. It is pretty nice looking. So graphically it's pretty impressive. Definitely a step up. Looks like a modern day game. And the story itself is pretty exciting with pretty high stakes as well. And it's nice again that you get to switch between so many different characters to kind of give that diversity while fighting and whatnot, and also give the diversity in how you want to set them up. Maybe you have one character that's full fighting, combat, and physical attacks, and you make someone else fully magical that can have all these power buffs and whatnot. So it's nice to have that freedom and whatnot. But like I said, I feel like a lot of people could get bored. I feel like if you're a person that is not big into single-player games, and for some reason you have a friend that just said you gotta play Final Fantasy 7 because it's amazing, and you're not easily swayed and get bored easily in games, this might not be the best game or high on the list to try first. It might not sway you over. But if you just do enjoy, a lot of typical single-player games and, are not bored easily, I think it's a game that can be enjoyed. I definitely did enjoy it. I thought it was fun. I just thought there was a lot of areas where it was lacking, and it easily could get boring to someone else. So just keep that in mind. Overall, like I said, the game is, shows why it might have been a classic back in the day, and it is pretty neat. But I do also dislike how they split it up. This also is a game that isn't fully finished. I believe, the first Final Fantasy VII, might have been a bunch of discs, but it was all a self-contained story, and this one, I think they divided it maybe into 3 parts, or at minimum 2 parts, so this doesn't even finish the full Final Fantasy VII game. It's been divided, and I don't think the second half is out, or I don't even think they have dimensions of when that's coming out. Typically Square Enix takes forever to release these games, as we've seen with Kingdom Hearts and how long that could take. So it also, you have to kind of keep that in mind as well. But they do have a PS5 upgrade for it, which is nice. So, you can get that little added addition of a boost as well to it. And I think it is for free also, so that doesn't hurt. So just keep that in mind. Overall, I'd say this game typically holds value, so it's hard to find extremely cheap very often. I think if you're a PlayStation Plus member, I think you can play it for free. If you have like the high membership on it, so that's one way to get it. But overall, I think this game probably is only worth. I'd probably pay $15 for it if you're not a big fan and don't really have any pressing need to play it immediately. So if you can find it for $15, $15, I think it might be worth playing and giving it a try. if you do like Final Fantasy, you're a fan, but you're broke all the time, maybe $20, $25 would be pretty fair. But quite likely you're not going to find this game for $30 or lower. So I'd say, you know, if you don't have any pressing need, I'd wait to see if you can find a discount and maybe play for PlayStation Plus or whatever to get it for cheap. If not, you know, you're probably going to have to accept paying at least $30 to play it. That's just how it usually breaks out to be around. Hope that kind of helps you out if you're thinking about playing it. Like I said, overall it was a good game, but it can be boring to some. Later, guys.